Okay, this is where our rally is going to start, at the foot of King Street. This is the most important intersection of King and Union, and we're going to have a human flood wall down the Strand to Robinson Terminal South and see how many people we can get to show concern for the water. I'm here at Waterfront Park, and this is where the city originally proposed building a building with parking on the ground floor to replace the Old Dominion Boat Club parking lot. Luckily, this building has been taken away and won't take away our parkland. So this is one of the things that we've already accomplished in this plan. But we would love to see tall ships in the background and see this seaport town bring in some tall ships so that we can celebrate our maritime history. The Beachcomber Restaurant, which was built in 1950 by the Hallfish family. And we would like to see this historic building restored into a great waterfront restaurant with rooftop dining and dining all the way around the balcony. I'm standing in front of Chad the Beachcomber. We would love to see, if this street is pedestrianized, that they could expand their outdoor dining across the street here. Instead of having loading and trucks here, we could have more great outdoor dining looking out over the water. In front of the Alexandria Yacht Building at 210 Strand. This is originally the site of the Old Dominion Boat Club, but would be a great place for boat building. Maybe building a tall ship here on the waterfront. Imagine this building encased in glass where tourists can come down here and see boats in front of the Alexandria Marine Building. That's the kind of waterfront. According to the city website, this building was built between 1897 and 1903. So it's one of our historic buildings that we need to preserve on the waterfront. I think it would make a wonderful waterfront cafe that is now owned by the Robinson Terminal Building company, and we would love to see it turned into a nice little historic cafe here on the waterfront, where they have a boat building program here. And it's been suggested in the plan that this could be created into a center for wooden boats to bring wooden boat building back to the waterfront, a craft that needs care and maintenance, expanded into a center for wooden boats right here on the waterfront, where again we could have tall ships pulling up to this old Washington Post warehouse where they brought paper into the waterfront. We can work with partnership with the Washington Post. I think we can create a great center for wooden boats here on the waterfront, 100 block of Duke Street, a large hotel. And as you can see now, you can see over the Art League building all the way to the shore on the other side. But once there's a 5-story hotel there, the owners of these houses will lose their view across the waterfront. And right now we'd like to keep low-density development on our waterfront, and the Art League has proposed building a beautiful new center for the arts down there. We think that's something the city should support. This is an old mill building on Union Street that we would love to see restored. It's owned by the Cummings family, who also owns the Art League at the other side of the block. And so we would like to see them restore this building and maybe put a bookstore or something that would bring vibrant life here. We love the Velocity group that's here, that's bringing bicycles to Alexandria. I'm standing here at the corner of Prince and Union Street in front of another historic mill building. It's very hard to tell from the siding that's on this building, but underneath there's a historic building. The Torpedo Factory Art Center. That's part of the water. It's a working artist studios started by Marion Van Lanningham in time for the bicentennial in 1976. And then it was redeveloped into our current torpedo factory in the mid-1980s. Behind me is a torpedo, which was built here in the factory during World War I. And now it's a great center for artists, and it brings over 1 million visitors to our waterfront. This is the kind of waterfront that we're fighting for the types of waterfront, a waterfront for artists, where we can have working artists, we can have the Art League, we can have wooden boats, activities for people to do along the waterfront. This factory brings over 1 million visitors a year to Alexandria. And we think that's good for the economy, not just hotels. So why don't we have nonprofits in these warehouses and create more space like this along the waterfront? Here you can see some pictures of the old torpedo factory as it was during World War I. It had several buildings, and they tore down some of these buildings and only kept the main building along Union Street here for the artists. And it would have been pretty neat to have some of these other buildings also included in adaptive reuse. And so we now have this building that replaces this older building, but maybe we can use some of these other warehouses that are owned by Robinson Terminal also in a creative way. Here on the docks behind the torpedo factory, and this is one of the places where I think we could have outdoor tables and maybe a little cafe or a place for people to play checkers. is a pretty underutilized spot right here. We need to make better use of some of the areas we have before we open up the waterfront to more commercial development. I'm standing inside the food pavilion behind the Torpedo Factory Arts Center. And as you can see, we have a very unsuccessful restaurant behind us. This is one of the areas that needs to be redesigned, perhaps as a food market or something else, or maybe as part of our museum or cultural center. Something needs to happen with this space. We need to figure out what to do with this space before we start building new hotels along the waterfront. Standing now behind the food pavilion in another underutilized space that could be great outdoor dining space. And you can see across from me in front of this office building, which also has a great patio that can be used for outdoor dining. It looks very much like one of the drawings in the city's waterfront plan, but there's no proposal to push the owner of this building to create restaurant space. If we want more restaurants at the waterfront, we have one right here and another one right behind. From behind the food pavilion. And you can see this underutilized space behind me, which would make more great outdoor dining. Outdoor dining up there and outdoor dining down here. And then as we come around, we're right across from the Seaport Center for their main building, which is actually a floating dock, which was built as a timber frame by Ted Benson. And it's a great thing to have here in the waterfront. This is a waterfront use that should be on the water. I'm standing here now at the end of Founders Park in front of Robinson Terminal North. Right here you can see what's called the Orinoco Outfall, which is an old oil spill that needs to be cleaned up on the waterfront. Supposedly we put bacteria in the water to help that, but that needs to be cleaned up. But you can see behind it the docks, which would be a great place for tall ships to dock. And it was on April 16th, 1789 that George Washington left this dock in his ship to go to New York to be inaugurated as our first president. So it fits in our history. But now this building is owned by the Washington Post Company. So we would like to work with the Washington Post to find a good solution to maybe open up a little bit more parkland along the water here, to have a continuous path to the next park up the river, Orinoco Bay Park. And we think this would be the best site for a maritime history museum, because we have the deep water docks, we have warehouses that exist now that might be able to be converted, and then we can design a great building for the museum later. Standing in front of Robinson Terminal North, our waterfront, you can see behind me, which is a paper warehouse owned by the Washington Post Company. One of the reasons I like this site for a maritime museum is that we have this great central park behind us called Founders Park that will link the torpedo factory to a great museum on this side of the water. And we can take the existing building and build a glass wall on this side, so as you're approaching the building you can see the museum inside. And then we can always have a new building redesigned later, but I don't think it will take $50 million, which is what the city said it will take, to create a museum in this spot. We need boats, we need exhibits, but we can create a glass wall on this side of the building to open up the vista into the building, and then create parkland around the building to connect this park with Orinoco Bay Park. And we can take away the street in front of here, maybe have another plaza or square